other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Today's show is sponsored by Dr. Jacalyn. Take charge of your life personally, financially, and professionally. Visit drjacalyn.com to book an appointment today.
Hello and welcome to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, the business talk show here live on Business Talk Radio, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. I am your executive producer and your host, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. I am a certified life and career coach. And with me today is my co-host, Mr. Al Cini. Hello, Al. Welcome to the program.
Dr. Jacalyn, it's great to be here. And you have lined up a great guest for us today.
Absolutely. I am thrilled. I just want to give you your proper due. You are the managing partner of BCAT's Brand and Cultural Alignment, and you are also a TV show host and a man with extensive business experience and media experience. So I am privileged to have you as my partner and co-host. Thanks for being here.
Totally my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
So, Al, you know, we have today with us Captain Joe Sacchetti, and he is backstage, and I am just eager to get him out here. So he'll be joining us after the first commercial break, and we're actually going to be taking questions from callers today if they're interested in calling in. So I'll go ahead and put that phone number up.
Great. He's going to be offering some terrific leadership lessons from his experience in the military. And there are an awful lot of people who write an awful lot of business books, and they're all wonderful. To give them all their due, they're all great. But this is a unique, very different business book because it's based on his experiences in the largest business in the United States, which really is the U.S. military. And, a lot of people, I think, have misconceptions about how they think things work in the military based on what they see on TV or in the movies. And it'll be a pleasure talking with Captain Joe to learn how those misconceptions are wrong and what we can actually gain from his experience here. I think it's going to be a great conversation.
Absolutely. And, he's so dynamic because he's a businessman. He's also U.S. Army Ranger, a paratrooper, and an author of the book Guts, Smarts, and Love. And I had the privilege of interviewing him already, and he shared this story with me. I don't want to give it away, but I'm going to ask him when he comes out to tell us about the mountain and what that Ranger training was like, and the specific story that he recounted that really left a big impression on me. And I've actually shared it with my clients and with a number of my friends because it just gives me chills when he speaks and recounts what he's been through.
I can't wait to hear that. And, anybody who deliberately and on purpose jumps out of a perfectly good airplane has got to be a pretty high energy guy with a lot to offer. So it should be a great conversation.
Absolutely. Al, I'm wondering, are you a very disciplined person? Are you someone who follows orders?
No.
No.
Well, I really shouldn't say that. I have, remember we had our interview with Merrick Rosenberg, and I took his assessment and learned that my personality is part eagle and part, you call it peacock, but parrot, same thing pretty much. And I have a kind of a creative nature, and I don't like to be reined in all that much. But at the same time, I know when something has to happen, then actions have to take place to make that happen. And it requires discipline to do the things that need to be done to make the changes that need to be made. And so I'm disciplined. I guess that's my way of saying I'm disciplined when I have to. But I'm very much a proponent of people really don't resist change. What they resist is being changed. So a bad way to manage me is to tell me that I need to change.
Okay. I have to stop doing that.
I just, you know what, from you, it's perfectly okay. But, other people, let's just say no. So, but I think that's true of most people. And I think one of the things we're going to learn talking to Joe about the lessons in his book is that most people really need to be led by example, not led by command or edict. And, I think that's probably the biggest misconception about the military. Most people think you just issue orders and people follow them. And the modern military in particular, I don't think really works that way. So it should be fun to learn about that. Have you ever coached anybody with a military background, Dr. Jacalyn?
No, I have not actually.
That's because they probably don't need coaching.
You know what? Now that I think about it, there was one person, but he's been out of the military for a long time. But he's still very disciplined and structured, and likes that environment. And
Hmm.
I think I'm a lot like that too, even though I wasn't in the military. But I've always liked structure and discipline. And now that I've got my own business, it's a little bit different because working for somebody else, you really have to follow a set of rules. Whereas when you work for yourself, you create your own rules pretty
You
much.
create your own rules. But it's funny. We all work for somebody. And you and I, we work for the people who watch the program and who listen in on Business Talk Radio. And our job is to make sure they get the information they need and that they have fun getting that information. So we report to them, and that really is the mission. And, I think when we get to talk to Joe, he'll tell us about how focus on mission is really a much more effective way to lead people to a goal than by issuing commands.
Right, right. I would agree with you on that. So I just want to get back to what you were saying before about the eagle / parrot / peacock. So would you envision that because an eagle is a leader, is very dominant, right?
Mhm. That's how I interpreted it.
Yeah, that's how I interpret it too. That most people in the military, their primary personality trait would be eagle.
Hmm. I would, I don't know. I don't think that's true. The four birds in Merrick's system represent four quadrants of human behavior. So whether you're an owl or an eagle or a dove or a I keep saying peacock, but we know it's parrot. No matter which of the four you are, you can be an effective leader. I think and we'll hear. I'd love to hear Joe's perspective on this because I think being an authentic leader means to lead from a place of comfort in yourself. And remember, nobody's just one of these four things. Everybody's kind of a unique combination of all four of these things. So I think the most effective. It's funny. The best manager I've ever worked for happened to be a woman. The worst manager I ever worked for happened to be a man. The difference was the good manager, the woman that I worked for, was always clear about what it was we were trying to accomplish. And she led by trying to help you get there, not by making you feel bad that you weren't there already, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And that's what made her so effective to work with. And that's why I looked forward to meetings with her. The guy I worked for was more of a micromanager and more about telling people what to do. And I used to dread meetings with him because I never felt like I had the freedom to really accomplish what needed to be done. And those leadership lessons, I think, are hard learned. And I can't think of a better place to learn them in the military.
I would agree with you. What type of leader do you think you are?
Me as a person, what kind of a leader am I? I guess I kind of try to lead with a sense of humor. I have become more flexible as I've gotten older.
So you were rigid before?
I used to be a little bit more rigid and a little bit more kind of overly focused on things. Let's just sort of put it that way. So now I'm at a point where if I can get people excited about something, I'd rather sit back and watch them make something of it than try to tell them what to make of it myself. Does that make sense?
Yes, it definitely
because I think that's more sustainable. So, for example, we just started a partnership where you're going to be offering team coaching using the Brand and Culture Alignment Toolkit. I understand how the product works. You understand how the product works, but the way you're going to use it is going to teach me more about my product than if you were just to use it the way I told you to. I want to see what you make of it because I think that's going to be an amazing thing, and I'm going to learn a lot from that.
Well, I like the fact that you just shared with us, at least what I heard, is that you've evolved in terms of your leadership style. And
I'd like to think evolved is good. Sometimes it feels a little bit like a pinball in a pinball machine where I kind of bounce off all the cushions and land where I land. But evolve is probably a better word for it.
Well, I want you to keep evolving because we're going to be taking a commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to bring our guest out, Captain Joe Sacchetti. I can't wait any longer.
It's so exciting.
Let's hear from some of our sponsors, and we will be right back on Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn. Don't go away. We will have Captain Joe Sacchetti with us.
Dynamite.
Hey everybody, my name is Ralph Graves Jr. I'm the host of the Ralph Graves Jr. Show, and I want to invite you to pick up my book, Unstoppable. I wrote a book called Unstoppable. It's 7 universal laws that will transform how you pursue and achieve success. The one thing that my 20 years of law enforcement has taught me is that no matter who you are, we are all governed by universal laws, like gravity. But in this book, we're going to talk about laws like the law of forgiveness, laws like the law of control, the law of intelligent practice, the law of expectancy. I was able to see how those, no matter what their background was, those who identified and treated these laws with respect, they were able to go on and lead successful lives. So pick up this book, and you can go ahead and pick it up at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, RalphGravesJr.com, where anywhere where fine books are sold. Thank you.
There are 7.7 billion people on Earth today. 40% of these people are under the age of 25. Young adults are the most fertile mission field in the world today. In Scripture, we see Jesus pouring his life into 12 young adults who he equipped to change the world and all of history. Like Jesus, we believe that the best approach to reach the world with the gospel is to invest in young, emerging leaders and equip them to build disciple-making movements. Concentric is the notion of surrounding and sharing a common center. Our center is the model and strategy of Jesus for both leadership development and ministry formation. As a global alliance, we provide equipping in biblical leadership based on Jesus' example in the New Testament. Jesus modeled for us how to make disciples that reproduce. Focusing on leadership development is key to creating movements that spread the gospel and Jesus' disciple-making strategy to young leaders around the globe. Our Ministry Alliance partners are actively equipping leaders and building movements of multiplication that reproduce the life of Christ. Join us today to equip young leaders with Jesus' strategy that will change cities and nations.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAP partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAP partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
Academy Sedan and Limo is a full-service transportation company serving the Philadelphia metropolitan area with full knowledge of the New York City, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. areas. We pride ourselves on being the most dependable, conscientious company in the industry. Our always on-time service and dependable pricing make us the company to call for any event or occasion. Our vehicles can accommodate any size party for any occasion. Our vehicles range from four-door sedans to SUVs to minivans to limo buses to full-size tour buses and can accommodate groups of 2 to 100. We offer airport shuttle service or over-the-road service without limitation regarding mileage or time, and no drive is too long or too far. So if you find yourself in need of transportation of any type with any vehicle, give us a call at 610-842-4564 and let us show you what a real transportation company can do for you.
Use code ACADEMY2020 to receive 20% off your first 3 rides, including parking and tolls.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is. The most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Welcome back to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, the business talk show. I'm here with my co-host Cini, and here is our guest finally. We can't wait to speak with you, Captain Joe Sacchetti. Welcome.
Thank you, Jacalyn, Dr. Jacalyn, and Al. It's great to be here, and it's good to see you again. You always do such a great job bringing important topics to people.
Good.
Well, we are just so thrilled to have you and so proud of you. Thank you for all your service, and thank you for your leadership, and thank you for your commitment to helping others.
Well, I'm thankful for that comment, and I'm just happy to have brought the story to light of so many great individuals, great soldiers, and their families. By the way, many of which are listening. They're listening and tuning in today. So hello, everyone out there, all the Rangers and their families that are joining today. I'm glad you're here.
Yes. Hello, Rangers. Thank you for your service, and thank you for being part of this program. That's wonderful. So, Captain Joe, you have written this phenomenal book, Guts, Smarts, and Love, which is going to be available in the Kindle version in November, and also in the paperback version in March. And I've had the pleasure of interviewing you already. And as I shared at the top of the show, you shared a story about Ranger training. And if you would mind sharing again, what does Ranger training consist of? And then can you take us down that path of the mountain scenario?
Well, U.S. Army Ranger training, for those folks that don't know it, and I suspect that most people have heard of a U.S. Army Ranger, and it brings to mind some mythical sound of helicopters hovering over a ridge, descending out of the sunlight, and dropping soldiers either by parachute or by rope down into the ground to do a mission. And if you think that's exactly right. To get to that point, you need to have earned the certification and the expertise of being the world's best soldier. We used to say the free world. I know Al remembers that term that we used to talk about all the time. The free world. Now everything in the we just say the world. It's a different place now. But to become a United States Army Ranger, at a minimum, you have to be airborne qualified and jump out of airplanes, and you become a paratrooper to do that. And you also have to be in the Army Combat Arms. Now, that's all table stakes. To get your Ranger tab, and I brought one today. If you can see this, it's this little tab, and it says the word Ranger on it, and it is worn right here above the heart. This probably costs $2 in a PX, but it cost a lifetime of emotion and dedication to earn it. And then we proudly wear it for the rest of our lives. So you're talking about 61 days of, if I may say, heck on earth to get that Ranger tab and be Ranger qualified. And you go through 4 phases, each of which provides a different geography or different kind of areas, worst possible conditions for you to survive on. And I guess I'll throw in a couple more things. You also largely get 1 meal a day and 2 hours of sleep. And so in addition to being a rigorous training school, it is absolutely a survival school, but the Army classifies it as the leadership school. And I think that's very interesting.
It sounds really grueling. There was a mountain part, I guess, of the story that Dr. Jacalyn was mentioning.
Yeah, I like to think of that as the day everybody thinks of quitting. Everybody comes to their moment that they may choose to quit, and it could be in the swamps of Florida during jungle phase. It could be in the desert of Utah in desert phase, or even the city phase during the absolutely hellish first couple of weeks of Ranger training. But for me, it was a mountain phase. Picture yourself 25 days into a couple of hours of sleep a night and a meal a day and this rigorous training. We've already jumped out of airplanes twice. and we're going as hard as we can. And we're now in the mountain phase. So we have to learn how to conduct warfare, but with the geographic conditions of being in mountainous terrain. And on one particular day, when we've been reduced to human zombies, I drew the unlucky card, and that was to have to carry the M60 machine gun. People may have seen this machine gun and featured in the movie Rambo, where he probably the only human alive that can hold this weapon up with his hands and fire it. But for everyone else, it's a 2 or 3 man operation. So I had to draw the carry the M16, the M60 machine gun, and climb the mountain that we were climbing. And it got to such a point where I wasn't sure if I could take another step. And then I had to look at myself and say, I have trained all my life for this moment to make it past this day, which is less than halfway through Ranger training. But was I going to get past it? And it was hard to imagine. So I just focused on a spot at the horizon, which was the top of the mountain. Let's call it 100 more steps straight up. And I thought, if I can just get to that spot, I'm good. And if I have to quit, I'm going to be able to look in the mirror the rest of my life saying, at least I made it that far. Well, in another couple of minutes, it became too far. That became too far of a stretch. So then I picked a tree that was halfway up. If I could just get to that spot, fine, I can look at myself and then quit. And finally, it got down to, can I make it one more step to the guy in front of me? If I make it one more step, then I'll feel like I've reached my limit and I'll quit. So I made that next step, and I made a few more, and I made it to the tree, and I finally made it up top. And I decided this wasn't going to be the day I was quitting. I made it back to base that day and never looked back.
Wow. I mean,
I just love that. And I love it for a couple of reasons, because if you think about life, that mountain is someone's goal, and it looks so far away, and it's how am I ever going to accomplish that? And then the machine gun on your back is all the stuff we carry, all the weight of the world on our back. And we think, how are we going to do all of that? And it's really just by taking one step at a time. So I love the way you articulated that. And I can actually envision you doing it. And it's just so happy and proud of you.
It's inspiring.
Oh, thank you.
And I'll tell you, I'm a little embarrassed because I'm thinking ahead to, can I make it to the next commercial break? How about halfway to the next commercial break? And I'm not carrying a weapon that weighs about half as much as an automobile. So, yeah, it's very impressive, Joe.
Well, thank you. And think about the symbolism, too, because with that crew serve weapon that has 3 people, you have an assistant gunner and an ammunition bearer. And so the person right in front of you and the person right behind you is also carrying a heavy load. One carries 2,000 rounds of ammo, and the other carries a thing they call a base plate, and he gets to have some ammo too. So if I was to decide to quit, then I would have taken the function of 2 other men and their ability to fight and support the unit away. And then come to find later that it was no easy task for them to have all that ammunition. I told the man in front of me who had the 2,000 rounds, I said, thank goodness I just followed you. And he said, you were following me. I was looking behind and seeing you coming up behind me. And so you kept me going.
You kept me going. And actually now we're starting to translate rare lessons. I mean, not everybody gets to go through Ranger training. Not everybody is in the military, but you've taken all those lessons that you've learned and you've put them in this book, Guts, Smarts, and Love, that's coming out in November, and then in hard copy format in, I think we say March. Is that when it's coming out?
That's right.
Well, talk about those lessons and what they mean to ordinary people.
Well, it's a great question that you ask, because the lessons that I learned myself and everyone that I served with had great impact, as you can imagine. When you're in the military, all branches of the military, they're fantastic. And especially when you're in sort of the tip-top elite levels, you have a lot of events that are really impactful when they're happening. And I found that 25 years later, they were still super impactful. I mean, they meant every bit as much to me, and that they had pretty much formed the foundation of how I've been successful, or how I view success in the corporate world, or leadership in general. And so I thought, well, these stories really ought to get written, and little leadership principles. And every principle in the book comes with a story an anecdote. So it's a little run up of what it means in business or high performance sports today, and then an actual story of Sergeant Bullock or Staff Sergeant Jimmy Patton or somebody that has done just something tremendous, and what made them so interesting. And I think people will get a kick out of it because they can read as little or as much as they want, and they can really hone in on a topic like being on mission with the boys. That's important for every leader to actually be out there rolling up their sleeves and doing the work. And we feature Staff Sergeant Jimmy Patton. And it's funny because when you say that name, Staff Sergeant, you imagine a grown man. And not to suggest that the folks aren't grown in their years, but the Army is a young person's game. Staff Sergeant Patton was 23 years old and 11 months at the time he was killed, and that's a young man. But he led a squad, and he believed he needed to be on mission with his boys. That's where he wanted to be if he ever went out. And because of the training that he gave to his squad, the night that his helicopter went down, the rest of the squad continued that mission and was successful in capturing one of the highest value targets in Iraq to that time in 2010.
Wow. So it sounds like a great book. Where does that title come from? Guts, Smarts, and Love.
Well, this is a great question because you look at what are the attributes that really make a great leader. It doesn't have to be an Army leader, mind you. It can be a great leader of any type. But you look at folks that have a leadership mission, that have something hard to do. And so the Army is full of those. I should say the military. Whenever I say the Army, by the way, Dr. Jacalyn, I mean the military. I'm just conditioned to say Army because I'm an Army guy.
I've got friends in the Air Force who have a gigantic inferiority complex over it. But go ahead.
all branches of the military are represented in my family. My brother's a naval officer. My uncle's a Marine, and we've got folks that have served in all of the conflicts since World War I. Being on mission is so important. In fact, you had just asked a question that was very interesting, and now I just forgot what it was.
Guts, Smarts, and Love. The
Guts, Smarts, and Love. Yeah, the title. Right. Well, what attributes really get to the heart of what these guys are, and we've flirted with 100 of them. And then we whittled them down to 20 and 10. And then I sent the book to a little focus group. And they said, by the way, do you know the word love appears in your manuscript 74 times? I did not know that. But that's the brotherhood piece of it. And of course, the guts. That gets to the sheer ability you have where you've got to take your step. You got to step outside the door of that airplane. And there's nothing but air afterwards. And you got to jump out. And I know, Al, you're interested in personality traits like the eagle. And so if the eagle is one of the 4 personality traits, that's the guts part.
Right.
And then smarts, the modern soldier, he or she is very smart, so talented, so much more effective than even 50 years ago. And I believe that's your owl, the wise person that uses wisdom, smart. The love would be, conceivably the dove. And I may have left out the parrot, but the parrot's in there. Like, as you've said before, everybody is a little of something of all 4 of them. And in this book, you're going to find tons of folks. One of the best stories is about a Master Sergeant Arthur who got out of the Rangers and Paratroopers and became a New York pararescue officer. And his most compelling story was on Christmas Eve of 1999. He gets a call at 2:30 a.m. that a lady can't make it to the delivery room, and he speeds over there to get her, to bring her over. And as he gets there, he finds out that she is already, and I'm going to get this wrong, she's already 45 seconds dilated, or where contractions are coming, or whatever it is, And he says, "This baby's coming now," and he rolls up his sleeves. He creates a clean room and delivers a baby. So that's the kind of thing that it's just innate in these Rangers.
Wow.
So, Captain Joe, thank you for sharing that. I'm wondering, for people who are interested in finding out, how does someone actually apply to be a Ranger? do you apply? Are you called upon? How does that work?
Yes, well, you're right. I mean, you have to want to do it. The Army likes to say you have to volunteer once, twice, or 3 times. Of course, we haven't had the draft since Vietnam, so to be in the military at all today involves volunteering. So you have to volunteer once. And then in the Army, you have to then volunteer a second time to jump out of perfectly good airplanes, like Al has said before. So that requires a certain level of expertise. You either can do that after or before Ranger School. It used to be that you had to be airborne qualified before. Now it doesn't matter, but you have to volunteer for that. And then thirdly, you have to volunteer and apply to go to Ranger School. So you have to pass a series of courses ahead of time, like that might be called Ranger Assessment Training, that kind of thing. RASP or RAP. People have different ones, but the Army has a very limited supply of slots. And they want to make sure you're going to do well. An average class of Ranger School is about 400 people, and they tend to graduate about 120 of those. So it's a big washout rate, and you have to earn your way in. So it's pretty tough.
So you have to be physically and mentally at the best that you possibly could be, and head and shoulders above others.
I think you're right. And don't we see this also in regular life that folks will concentrate on one, sometimes much more than the other. So when you think of Ranger School, folks will go in there really physically ready. I mean, the most amazing physical specimens you've ever seen. And then figure that will get them there. But you have to be mentally prepared, because a school like Ranger School breaks you down. And when you only have a meal a day and a couple of hours sleep, it plays with the human psyche. And when you have a mission that doesn't ever seem to end, it's just, okay, you did that, now we're going to do this. And literally, there are the Ranger instructors there want to filter out the weak people. And they're actually attempting to make conditions there worse than they'll be in combat.
And during this whole 61 days, are you feeling a sense of brotherhood or camaraderie, or is it very competitive because there's only so many spots left, so it's every man for them or woman for themselves?
Well, that really is a good question. I've actually never been asked that question before, but the answer most certainly is you have the opportunity for brotherhood right off the bat, because all 400 people are welcome to graduate. You can graduate once you've made it in. There's no reason why you can't. You have to either self-select or fail out or get medically injured out, but you could, and you have to work together. The general conceit of Ranger School is that it is impossible to do it on your own. You are assigned tasks that require 10 or 12 man squad to do, sometimes a 40-man platoon. Impossible to do it. In fact, if everyone doesn't pass, everyone fails. And so it's sort of the opposite of that Survivor show. It should be called the Impossible Challenge. But brotherhood starts from day one.
Wow. What are you doing in the business world now, Joe?
Well, I've been in technology for the last 20 years, Al, and I like the storage and software world. I think it's really fascinating. I run channel sales for a software startup in California. It's called Vidara Storage. And I guess, like being a Ranger, I like new paradigms. And it's fun to be in the cloud software world where folks are able to do stuff and do high performance computing and all the stuff that they want to do from home, like we're sitting right now, and not have to be surrounded by blinking lights. And the cloud has brought us the opportunity to do that.
That's definitely a good place to be, especially right now. We have to hold that thought and take a break and hear from our sponsors. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Stay tuned on Wrapping with Dr. Jacalyn and our guest, Captain Joe Sacchetti.
Hey everybody, my name is Ralph Graves Jr. I am the author of this book called Unstoppable. Now, what Unstoppable is about is it's 7 universal laws that will transform how you pursue and achieve success. Why don't you pick up your copy today? Go to my website, www.ralphgravesjr.com. Go to Amazon. This book is sold wherever fine books are sold, anywhere in the country. My name is Ralph Graves. Let's be unstoppable together.
RVN TV is a platform for people of any industry to share their story. Over 285,000 viewers are tuning in to RVN TV shows monthly. We guarantee a great experience that you'll be sharing with everyone you know while increasing your personal and company's brand awareness. But what is your brand? According to Forbes, it's a combination of your logo, your product, your design and feel, and your personality. Did you know that aside from being a guest, we offer even more opportunity to boost your brand? Adding your company logo and website on screen during your interview will allow viewers to recognize your brand instantly. Incorporating images and video clips is another great way to showcase your product during your live segment. Let viewers see how good you really are. And most importantly, there's you and your interview. For less than the cost of a newspaper, direct mail, or a magazine ad, you can leave our studio and within 48 hours have a permanent digital copy of your live segment to link to your social media, embed into your company website, or use in email marketing. Investing in your brand is so very important, and we can't wait to have you as a guest.
Make a bold statement by wearing a custom jewelry design from Margie Cedrone, Artisan Jeweler, located at 121 Haddon Avenue in Westmont, New Jersey. Telephone number 215-384-7155. Margie Cedrone is an artisan jeweler who has been a permanent fixture on the renowned Jewelers Row in Center City, Philadelphia since 1988. Starting her business in 1982, all of Margie's designs are individually handmade as well as custom design. She is one of the only jewelers left in the area who still crafts the finest tailor-made diamond jewelry, whether it's a statement piece or an everyday item. In addition to her one-of-a-kind designs, she specializes in pearl stringing and bead jewelry repairs. Margie Cedrone Jewelry pairs nearly 30 years of experience with the building of lifelong client relationships. Dr. Jacalyn has been a client and friend of Margie Cedrone for many, many years. Each week during my show, Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, live on Business Talk Radio, I will be featuring one of the beautiful pieces of jewelry that Margie custom made for me. I urge you to contact Margie through her website, margiecedronejewelry.com. Wait no longer to make your own bold statement.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Today's show is sponsored by Dr. Jacalyn. Take charge of your life personally, financially, and professionally. Visit drjacalyn.com to book an appointment today.
Hello and welcome back to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, the business talk show here live on Business Talk Radio, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. By the way, I love that catchy tune, Mr. Cini. Thank you for...
Happy to put it in for you.
So I'm here with my co-host Al Cini and our special guest, Captain Joe Sacchetti, author of Guts, Smarts, and Love. And Joe, I'm wondering if we could delve into the principles and the stories of this exciting book.
Well, I think that'd be great. What's really cool is that I think there's something for everyone in the book, depending on what you're looking for. You know, before the commercial, we were talking about different personality types: the eagle, who's really the guts, and the owl, smarts, and the dove, who represents brotherhood, and also the parrot, who's the crazy persona. And the military are just full of these. And I think as you read along the book, you're going to laugh along with some of the characters. I call them characters. I mean, they're all U.S. Army Rangers, pretty serious people, but they're just some of the best humans you've ever met. And the lessons I learned from them. I'll say this, people often ask, oh, you've written a book about your story. And this is not that. This certainly is not my story. but I am the glue that threads between the different characters because I've served with them. One of the personality types that Al talked about is the owl, the smarts part, and having wisdom. And in one of the chapters, we talk about Sergeant Major Patton. And what was interesting about him is that he was the brigade sergeant major in Afghanistan, and they had 20 or 25 different operating bases that were really far away from each other. In fact, so far in cruel mountainous terrain that you needed a helicopter to get to them. And so come Thanksgiving morning, it deployed in Afghanistan, they all broke off and they visited the different outposts. And he decided to go with the one that was one of the very furthest away. And they had gotten attacked the night before, and a lot of their fortifications were damaged. And so it was a special event to have the sergeant major get to this combat outpost way on the outskirts of the Afghanistan mountains. But he thought it was more important to fill sandbags with the boys 3 hours before Turkey was ready than to go and have a staff meeting and to do an inspection of the facilities. And I think it's just a great example of knowing what's going to make a difference. And there was a reporter that happened to snap a picture that day, and Sergeant Major Patton's got a big cigar, and he's shoveling sand into sandbags, and he's talking about hunting Tennessee deer with the boys and how to cook it. So you just it's just really amazing to see the connections that Rangers have from top to bottom.
What really impresses me, we talked about your book a little bit before we went on the air today, and I know you've written it for me. I have a very short attention span. I get bored very easily. So Guts, Smarts, and Love is a series of separate lessons that can be read independently of each other. I think that's such a great idea, and there's so much wisdom just in the way you approached it.
Well, thank you. There's you can literally thumb down there. You can read it in whatever particular order you like, or you can just hone in on something that happens to make a difference to you. Maybe motivation is something that's amazing to you, or making a good first impression, or positioning yourself for success. I mean, each of these have a business or life application, and then it's kind of fun to see the soldiers that lived it. And believe me, none of them ever expected that what they were doing. Jimmy Patton, for example, I mentioned him earlier. His unit was stuck in an ambush in the mountains, and they had followed a couple of bad actors up into the mountains that had attacked them, and then they found that they had walked into an ambush. And the only way for him to free up his other folks was to come out of cover from behind a large boulder and expose himself so that he could return some fire that would allow another soldier to peek his head up and call in an airplane for help. And so, that's a dramatic example of literally positioning yourself to help your team. And I think folks in the business world will extract that lesson.
One of the lessons you mentioned in your book too is the importance of leading by example. I think that's one of your chapters, but I get a feeling there's an awful lot of that running as a common thread through all of your stories.
Well, the military is famous for having people, walk that walk and get out there. When in some of the early troublesome days in Iraq, we had folks that weren't about to just change the way they had thought all those years. And one of the particular characters, Colonel Carasello, got a terse command from the Central Command that said, "Turn this thing around." And so he's left to do that when there's literally rioting in the streets and so forth. And you've got to get out there and put your boots on the ground and say, "I'm not afraid to walk this ground and take charge."
Wow,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
How would you say, Captain Joe, for you and for your fellow Rangers, that being a Ranger changes your life?
I think for anybody out there, and believe me, it does not have to be to go to Ranger School. And even in the military, there's an amazing amount of other elite schools and so forth. And, for some people, it would just be passing basic training. But the key is do something that you can barely imagine completing and just set your mind to it and say, I'm going to do this thing and devote yourself to it.
I'm so glad you brought that up because the conversation comes up a lot, especially with younger people. It's not your feelings that make your future. It's your actions. It's the things you do, not the feelings you have. So filling your day with things that might be challenging, maybe even borderline impossible, these are paths to the future that a lot of people don't realize if they just take that first step and actually do something, their whole life reorients itself around that action.
And that's right. And surrounding yourself with other people that are on the right track really makes a difference. In ranger schools, sometimes you'll get to the point where you can't really imagine doing this mission. And in point of fact, you can't accomplish it alone. But the fact that other people are doing it, you say, okay, guess what? If Jimmy on my left and Dave on my right is doing it, I'm gonna do it for them.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yes, it is.
Well, I'm thinking, I know we're coming up on a break, but before we go to the break, I just want to say guts, smarts, and love is also the lesson of the Wizard of Oz, because the three main characters need a heart, a brain, and the nerve. And I think what you've really tapped into are three fundamental principles of human success. In order to succeed at anything, you need to have the courage to do what you have to do. You have to have the smarts to know what to do. And you've got to have enough love in you to keep you motivated, to care about the people around you while you're getting it done. I can't wait till this book comes out. It's going to be great.
Well, thank you. That's a brilliant insight. And it is funny how that we can boil, the toughest things in life down to really the simplest things. We just have to master them, and we can really accomplish almost anything.
Wow.
Absolutely. It's just like you going up that mountain. You just have to take that first step and just keep moving, knowing what the ultimate goal is, keeping it in mind.
Wow.
So on that note, we are going to take a commercial break. It's our last one. So stay with us. We will be back with Captain Joe Sacchetti.
Can't wait.
Yay.
Meet Sam and Jane. They run a manufacturing company. They're very frustrated with their company's lack of direction. They love their employees and everyone seems to come into work every day, but they're not focused and they look busy, but they're not getting anything done. So Sam and Jane decided they were going to get everyone in the organization together to talk about core values. They came up with words like inspiring and trustworthy and honesty and integrity and getting things right the first time. They all stopped to think about all these great words that they put on the whiteboard. Someone in the organization said, "Boy, that sounds a lot like the Girl Scouts," and someone else piped out and said, "It sounds more like SEAL Team 6 to me." None of those words differentiate us from the competition. More frustration ensued and Sam and Jane were back to square one. Then Mary Smith from operations said, "You should call the team from the Brand and Culture Alignment Toolkit, BCAT. They'll show us how to find our North Star and get everyone in the organization to row in the same direction." So Sam and Jane called certified practitioners and had them to come in to do a BCAT survey of everyone in the organization. BCAT is a scientific instrument that measures and maps the gap between your company brand and culture. www.getbcat.com. They were surprised to see that their organization was indeed not on the same page and not rowing in the same direction. After just a few short hours, certified practitioners were able to get everyone in the company to agree on one specific role target or direction. Within weeks, everyone in the organization had agreed and committed to making several behavioral changes that got them closer and closer to that North Star. Employee engagement rose, productivity and teamwork went up, profits climbed, and at the end of the year, everyone got a huge bonus. For more information on how to get your company's brand and culture aligned, call us at 1-855-999-BCAT.
Hey everybody, my name is Ashley Owens. I am your personal networking concierge, and I host a show on RVN TV called Connect to Success, where I interview power networkers in the greater Philadelphia and South Jersey area. So join me every week, 12:30 on Thursdays during your lunch break, and now on Fridays at 9 and 9:30 p.m. We'll see you next week.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is. The most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
We're back live on Business Talk Radio, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. It's the Wrapping with Dr. Jacalyn, the Business Talk Show. Welcome, Al Cini and Captain Joe Sacchetti. Thanks for sticking around through the break.
Great to be here.
So I just wanted to point out, I had put up an image of you, Captain Joe, and of a number of Rangers, and you had shared that story with me. Can you share it for our listeners and our viewers?
Well, as Shakespeare said about 500 years ago, there's no greater bond between men than those who sacrifice together. And we find that even 30 years have passed. Several of the old scout platoon mates or paratroopers and 82nd Rangers get together, and we very spontaneously. There's about 10 of us that got together just last month in the mountains of North Carolina. And we just shared this time. It's kind of hard to describe. It's getting away from the rest of the world. And of course, the beautiful surroundings don't hurt. But I had the book, and each of them were in it for a chapter. And we sat around a campfire, literally like little kids. And I read some of the segments out. And it's the first time that they had heard it. And it was very meaningful. It's an incredible catharsis.
But that's great. And, Joe, you mentioned one of the things, I think one of your lessons is the importance of thinking quickly, being quick and fast on your feet. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. And you remember in the book, you have, this sort of business run up that, of course, everyone realizes thinking fast on your feet makes sense. And it reminds me of the story of Corporal Todd Williams. He was a Ranger back in the 82nd. And the thing to note about this person, I say a name and you're trying to think of some, an image. Think of the most chiseled image you can imagine of a human being. 5'10" or 11, 200 pounds, and biceps that I don't know the measurements exactly, but whatever this is, it's like 17 inches. And he did a great job. And found himself as a member of a police force out in Southern California. And he's been on the force, bringing Ranger leadership there for the last 20 years. And, he faced a situation that's interesting for readers in the book, because it's not a military, but it's a police situation where he had a possible jumper off of a tall building in California. And he got the call to go and assist. And the only person on the call at the time up there on the roof was a young female officer who's trying to keep this crazy person from jumping. And she was doing a great job, according to Todd. But he sidled up, and he's sort of a scary character, and he's got tattoos and immensely strong. And he said the nicest greeting he could to the person to kind of stabilize him. And then as he drew closer, he faded out of sight until the moment he realized he could do a super athletic move of jumping up against the side of a wall, hitting the building, lurching off of the left foot, and he tackled the man and saved him from going over at the last second. Who, by the way, I think when he realized someone was coming at him, he went to throw himself back over the building, but was saved by the very fast thinking of Corporal Williams. And it's just another example of the things that you do when that Ranger training is second nature.
You have to learn to pivot, or you're going to be facing bad consequences. I think that in itself is such a great lesson. That's terrific.
And it certainly applies to business as well.
It does. I was thinking exactly that. And by the way, there are big misconceptions that people have about the military being all command and control. And, I know now you're working in sales, basically corporate sales for cloud services, technology services. And if there's anything you probably learned early on, it's that you can't order a company to buy a product from you.
Yeah,
they're
that's
not
right.
going to obey that command. So
Exactly. And even in an environment that is based on command structure like the military, today's military is full of very talented soldiers, even at the lowest levels, very smart, super talented, and you have to earn their respect. And the real key for a leader, I should say the key for a real leader, is that you don't demand respect, you earn it. And when the tough time comes, you half the time don't have to issue that tough order because men are already stepping forward. And you realize the tremendous potential that these folks have, and that you're willing to get down there. And they do it because you've explained why. When you tell them why, everyone knows the mission.
Wow. Now, you've been away from the military now for a while?
That's right. I was in from 1985 to 1994, those 9 years. Out for a very long time. I got a second bite of the apple, though, when two of my three sons went through ROTC and are now fellow Army officers. I have a second lieutenant and a first lieutenant in the family.
Great. I just have one other question. I mean, you've been out of it for a while. I'm sure you must have a pretty low body mass index. You look like you're still in pretty good shape. How do you maintain that? How do you stay in shape?
By the way, I've seen him out running a few times. He's in great shape. So.
I saw Dr. Jacalyn in Avalon as I was on a 10 miler. Because if you go from one end to the other, from Stone Harbor to Avalon and back, you get about 10 miles. I think the Ranger mentality is to stay in good shape. And man, I wish I had a picture of the fellow I just was talking about, Ranger Todd Williams, because he is just a chiseled human being. I think it just becomes innate. And of course, remember this, Al, once a Ranger, always a Ranger. And we have to be ready to take that PT test and challenge those young bucks at any moment. And I never shy away from a one-on-one challenge.
Are you still able to do, I'm assuming, pull-ups? So many pull-ups and so many sit-ups?
I can do better than for my age, their age group, but of course I'm still able to max the PT test. I just went to a bachelor party a couple of years ago with a bunch of young Rangers, and as it always happens after some barbecue and a little bit of beer, it came down to a challenge where they tried and challenge me to push-ups in the mile, and I was kicking off my Ferragamo loafers and saying, "Let's go! I'm ready to go."
I'm really embarrassed. I can knock down a Big Mac and a large order of fries in about 8 minutes. That's my accomplishment. So.
I was going to say, Al, I'm going to challenge you, but I don't think that'd be fair. You probably win. So Captain Joe, what's next for you? I mean, you've accomplished so much, and you've got this book coming out. I'm assuming you're going on a book tour?
Well, I do have quite a few speaking engagements lined up. That's great. I've been able to be at some colleges and some military bases. So yeah, I'll be out there talking about my favorite topic, which is leadership.
Excellent. So your book's coming out, and we are showing the banner about where people can find it. But for people on Business Talk Radio who are listening, how can they buy your book?
Okay, well, it's easy to find on Amazon.com. Dudley Court Press is a great publishing house that I have, and it'll be available in bookstores. I think the phrase is bookstores everywhere. That's a funny phrase. I haven't gotten used to saying it yet, but you can just type it right into Amazon. And November 11th is Veterans Day, so that's kind of a cool day that it'll be available on ebook, and then in March for the paperback.
And if people want to reach out to you for speaking engagements, or if they're just interested in finding out what it's like to be a Ranger, or they're just thrilled with you and they want to contact you, I know you're on LinkedIn, is the best way to reach you through your website?
Well, thanks. And I love talking to people about anything. You've got the scrolling right across now. ArmyRanger@MIT.com is a cool website. It's got a lot of good information and certainly contact for me. And I really love talking to folks.
Great.
So the book is Guts, Smarts, and Love, and you can find it on Amazon. please do so. Get your electronic version that you can get November the 11th, and then the paperback will be available in March. Captain Joe Sacchetti, thank you again for your service. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you here today, and we wish you all the best. And again, hello to all the other Rangers out there. And we're just thrilled with the fact that you put these stories to paper so that everyone can read and understand what it's like and these different lessons that are totally applicable to business and to life.
Well, it's been great being here. Thanks to you and Al for having me on, talking about my favorite topic. And a big thank you to the folks that really have made this possible, all our great servicemen that are deployed, men and women that are deployed now and have served ever in their lives. They have made America great.
We will join you in that. Thanks, definitely.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And we will see you backstage in a couple of minutes, Captain Joe. So hang around for us if you would. So, Mr. Cini, it's been a pleasure. This was absolutely a phenomenal interview with someone who has done so much, accomplished so much, given so much, and I'm sure that it doesn't stop here. So,
no, what does it take to make a great guest? It takes guts, smarts, and love, and he had all of them, and it was great. Absolutely terrific.
Absolutely. And Mr. Cini, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to understand more about brand and cultural alignment?
You could email me at al.cini@getbcat.com, GETBCAT.com, or you can call 855-999-BCAT.
I love that with the BCAT 2228. That's great. So Al, thank you so much. It's a pleasure having you and working with you, and I will see you backstage soon.
My pleasure, Dr. Jacalyn. Thank you.
And to everyone out there who supports our program, it means so much. Our goal is to continue bringing you interviews from people who are really transforming the world, who are really bringing hope and inspiration and stories of overcoming adversity. And if there ever were stories of overcoming adversity, we certainly heard some of them today. The book is Guts, Smarts, and Love. Please do get your copy. You can get it November the 11th. On the Kindle version on Amazon, and then the paperback version, you can get that in March. So thank you once again for being with us today. You can reach out to me through my website, which is drjacalyn.com. And that is a wrap for today. We look forward to seeing you for our next program, which will be next week. Thank you so much for being here.